Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Personalization Outbreak Podcast. In times of great change, leaders need all the support that they can get. See, change is hard, and we all know that. But what's even harder is trying to implement change without the trust and support of your team. Now, in today's episode, we're going to talk about the importance of creating a culture of trust in order to lead your team through change. Our guest today is Tiffany King, Vice President of Peopleteams at UnitedHealthcare. Now, Tiffany is an HR executive with several years of HR experience in multiple organizations that include Starbucks, Apple, and Banfield Pet Hospital. Now, together, we'll share some very important tips on how you can start building trust within your team and create a positive environment for change. Before we get started, please click the like button below, share it with your colleagues, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and social media at Glenn Yopes. Let's get started. The 2022 season of Personalization Outbreak Podcast is brought to you by City of Hope, a world leader in the research and treatment of cancer, diabetes, and other life-threatening diseases. City of Hope has been ranked among the nation's best hospitals in cancer by U.S. News and World Report for over a decade. Learn more about City of Hope at cityofhope.org. You are listening to Personalization Outbreak, a podcast about the collapse of traditional corporate standards in today's more personalized world. I'm Glenn Yopes. I'm a leadership strategist, author, contributor to Forbes, and founder of the Leadership in the Age of Personalization movement. On this show, I'm interviewing executives across multiple sectors to find out how the balance between standardization and personalization can exist. Tiffany, so glad to have you on the show. Finally, you're here.
I'm here. Thank you, Glenn. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Well, you're very, very welcome, Tiff. And, look, we've had discussions, in preparation for this interview around just how everyone at some level is experiencing transformation right now, whether it's in their personal lives, whether it's professionally. And this means that we're just all having to navigate uncharted waters. I mean, we're dealing with so many unknowns, but in the end, what we're all learning how to really do is manage opportunities, especially those that were previously unseen. That's why I always say, Tiff, that transformation is really a fancy word for opportunity management. In fact, I like to ask our audience this question. Have you ever taken a class in opportunity management? Well, of course you have. It wasn't part of our curriculum in school or the things that we learn even in our jobs. But let's again simplify the term transformation. It's all about opportunity management. And I know, Tiff, that what you're experiencing right now at UnitedHealthcare is transformation, not just at an organizational level, but at a people level. So I know that this topic means a lot to you. And let's jump in to help people understand what some of those strategies are to manage opportunity. What do you think about this, Tiff?
Yeah, that sounds good. You are so right. It's such a relevant topic today, right? So glad we're having the conversation.
Okay, well, the first thing we all need to realize is that opportunities are everywhere, yet few have eyes to see them. And I often say that people that can't see opportunities are those that are really stuck in old, outdated ways of doing things. So, Tiffany, why must leaders begin to respect different points of view more than ever before so that they can broaden their observations about the realities that are right in front of them?
Yeah, Glenn, I would tell you it is so important for leaders to really kind of broaden their perspective, right? When you think about how we approach the business or approach the work, especially in the environment today, right? Just think about how our culture, our workplace is shifting. It is so critical for leaders to be able to look at the bigger picture, right? And take in all perspectives, right? I always say that To be an agile learner is to actually take in all points of view, right? So you've got to be able to consider, different perspectives and insights and thoughts in order for us to see the possibilities. If you stay within your little silo, you're never going to be able to look up and look out and, really kind of understand what's happening in the broader world around us. So I think it's so important for leaders to be able to kind of elevate their point of view, take in all perspectives, and quite honestly, to me, that helps us see the possibilities.
Well, what's interesting about your comment, Tiff, is that, again, I think that this was done unknowingly, but business models, for the most part, especially legacy business models, were actually designed to put people in silos and to actually find like-minded thinking, not just find it, but curate it. Like,
Yeah.
Why is that so limiting in your point of view?
Yeah, I will tell you, when you are in an organization where you're working in silos, you become stuck, right? You're not there. There's lack of movement. There's lack of innovation and creation, and so it's so important for us to be able to break through those silos and understand there's a greater world around us, right? And I agree with you. I mean, I've worked in many organizations where we are siloed. And what it does is it impacts our ability to collaborate. And when you collaborate, you get different thoughts and ideas, right? And so it's important for us to think about how do we break out of this silo and be able to reach across the aisle. And again, like I said, kind of broaden our view and our reach so that we can gain different perspectives. But you're so right. And I will tell you, it's a challenge, right? Because that's how most organizations are designed.
Well,
Um,
think about
yeah.
what you just said, Tiff. I mean, if that's how they're designed, then perhaps we're beginning to understand why it's hard for organizations to measure inclusion. Because
Yeah.
if we were actually inclusive organizations, we would be broadening our observations all the time through the richness of people's different points of view, right? Back to the things that you're saying. So Tiff, let's jump into another strategy that's so important in managing opportunities. And it's one that's what we're dealing with big time right now. And that is when we're all trying to navigate uncertainty, it requires us to get out in front of change. I mean, let's think about this for a moment. Who are the colleagues? And this is not a question for our audience. Who are the colleagues that you can rely upon now and into the future? Right? Are they the same ones that you can always rely upon? Or are certain people just too stuck in the old ways of doing things that you can't evolve fast enough as our business models evolve? So, Tiffany, what are some lessons that you've learned by anticipating new ways of getting out in front of change?
Yeah. Well, Glenn, I will tell you, I'm actually going to take it back a little bit.
Sure.
So, and, just talk a little bit about my childhood experience and growing up, right? I won't go too deep, right? I don't want to give too much away in terms of, where I am today or how old I am. But anyway, what I would tell you is, when I was growing up, we moved a lot. So my dad was not in the military, but he worked for Lockheed Martin. And so every 4 to 5 years, we knew we were going to make a change. We were getting ready to move again. And so for me, when I think about those experiences and having to pick up, go to a new school, the lunchroom was the worst because you had to make new friends and meet new people. But what happened is, as I got older, I anticipated the move, right? I kind of knew right at that 4 year mark, we were going to be moving again, and I was going to have to prepare myself for a change and a shift. And so, it became normal in my life. And I will tell you, translate that into my career and how I've been able to, bring that into this workspace and bring it into this place in terms of where I function and how I function. I think it's so important for us to think about, we've got to continue to change and evolve as we grow, right? We've got to anticipate that things are not always going to be the same, right? So I think about it in terms of how do I anticipate kind of all the intricacies that come along with change, right? There's so many things to consider, right? It's like those what ifs. What if this happens, right? And I think as leaders, it's important for us to think about those things and have them top of mind, knowing that we are change agents, right? And that we're going to disrupt the business or disrupt the flow of business. It's important to be thinking about how is that going to make an impact to my people, to the organization, to me.
Well, in Tiffany, I mean, right now you're in a role that's all about people leadership. I can imagine what you're dealing with is everyone's trying to navigate through these uncharted waters. I mean, what would you say to someone who feels stuck?
That's such a great question. What I would say, and I am in a role where, I have an opportunity to not only impact change, but again, be a change agent and help others navigate through change. And so, what I would say is do some self-reflection, right? To understand, why are you feeling stuck? What is it about this moment and this time that's causing you to feel like you can't move forward, right? And then how do I support you in being able to make that transition, right? Who are the people, you said it earlier, Glenn, who are those people, those individuals, those allies, those advocates who can help you become unstuck, right? And help you move forward, right? Whether it's a friend or coworker or colleague, right?
Well, you're getting to another strategy that's so critically important, and that is during times of transformation, we need to help people unleash themselves, unleash their passionate pursuits so that they can not only unleash their individuality, but can certainly help the organization seize these endless possibilities before circumstances force our hand, right? So as leaders, we need to help our peers, our colleagues, even our executives get into exploration mode so that they can begin to reconnect to the foundational roots that define the organization's mission. So I love where you're going with that. Let help people, encourage people to reflect, but then who can they go to as someone that can help unleash them and get them to a place where they feel that their contribution is valued and it can be a big part of helping the organization get out in front of this transformation. So how does unleashing one's passionate pursuits strengthen the organization's mission?
Oh, that's a good one. I'm going to tell you, Glenn, one piece of advice I've always given those that I've mentored, and that is to follow your passion. Follow your passion and seek to grow in an organization whose values align with your values and your morals, right? That is what I've always done and tried to do throughout my career. But I will tell you, if you can help someone unleash that passion, then it really kind of equates to their ability to do their best work, right? And so if you can just help them understand, follow that passion, unleash that passion, and just watch the value that you will add to the organization, you'll flourish, right? That's what I believe, and that's what I've always seen throughout my career. So I think it's helping people to see their purpose and their impact in the organization through their passion.
Well, and not only does it help the organization, it helps the individual, right?
Yes.
I mean, at the end of the day, what people don't realize is that as leaders, we need to discover what people love to do, because that's when you can ignite, to your point, that purpose, that passion, and allow work to be meaningful and thrilling again.
So true.
So Tiff, the other one, another strategy that's really important in transformation, or as I've referred to it as opportunity management, is knowing that we have to embrace this entrepreneurial attitude when navigating these uncharted waters. We need to think big and bold, to make a difference and have an impact when the moment calls. And I want to remind everyone that entrepreneurship just isn't a business term anymore. It's a way of life. I mean, you don't have to be an entrepreneur to be entrepreneurial. So, Tiffany, why does having an entrepreneurial spirit, this attitude, activate a whole new level of strategic focus? And how does it, in the end, help the individual and the organization create and sustain momentum?
Yeah. Glenn, you talked about it earlier. You talked about inclusion, right? And so when I think about the work that we've strived to really achieve across the organizations where I've worked, really, is how do we encourage people to bring their unique thoughts and ideas into a safe place where they can be heard, right? So when I think of an entrepreneurial spirit, just like you said, you don't have to be an entrepreneur, but you really have to have that courage to be able to speak freely and speak your ideas and your thoughts, even when they may be a little uncommon, right? And so I think it's important that we as leaders create that safe space for our people to share their unique thoughts and to feel safe sharing their voice, right? It allows for the person to grow. It allows for them to really kind of see the fruits of their ideas and their thoughts, especially when we turn it into action, right? It says that we care about you. We care about what you have to say. And we want you to bring that into this space because it matters. And so I think it's important for us to create that space. Again, it brings that opportunity for people to be innovative and be creative, right? And so we want to create trust and belief as leaders. And so that's why I say it's important. It's important for the person to feel heard and valued. And it's important for the organization because their value matters.
Exactly. Well, and I think through this process, as you've described it, Tiffany, we begin to put people in a position of discovering their own capacity.
Yeah.
Right? Because in the age of standardization, when things are almost predetermined for you to do things a certain way, when we create that room for people to live that entrepreneurial spirit, they begin to discover things that they're capable of that have never really been utilized before. And again, everybody wins, especially during times of uncertainty. Now, Tiffany, the next one is really important, right? I mean, we all know that when you're dealing with any kind of change, especially during these times of uncertainty, as leaders, we need to step back and recognize that this isn't about taking care of ourselves more than it is about how do we take care of others and their unique needs. It's about being able to provide in the moment feedback and a level of respect to one's ideas and ideals. Because right now it's about helping others learn how to garner trust, not just in themselves, but to earn the trust of others. Why is creating a culture of trust so critically important right now?
Wow. That is such a great question. And I'll tell you, we've been dealing with this recently, even on my team. We've been having conversations about trust and just how important it is, right? I mean, honestly, Glenn, trust is important because you're basically asking people to follow you into the unknown, right? You have to be able to build trust, right? So people will follow you somewhere where sometimes you're not sure where you're going, right? It's there. We know there's possibilities, but we're asking people to follow us. And so I would tell you, building a culture of trust is not only critical, but it's necessary. For me, it's a non-negotiable as a leader. And so, it's funny, I was reading an article and one of the quotes in the article said that trust is the operating system of every relationship. You need it to function, right? You need it to be in sync. And so I say when you build trust, you get people to a place where they're more willing to navigate the uncertainty of change with less fear and apprehension. So I say trust is, again, a non-negotiable when you talk about change.
Well, I'm inspired by what you've said, but on the other side, I see just how much how many trust gaps are out there. I mean, it's a tough time right now. And so who do you believe? What do you believe? And I'll just share this and you can certainly react to it, is we need people to trust themselves.
Oh, that's so good.
Trust themselves. Why do you think it's difficult for people to trust themselves?
Yeah, that, you know what, Glenn, that is it's a good question and it's profound. And I will tell you, I think it's hard sometimes. I think we, just as human beings, right? I think it's in our nature to sometimes doubt ourselves, right? And, I will tell you, as a female, as an African American female, I know many times we deal with imposter syndrome and feeling like, should I really be here? Do I trust the experience and the expertise that I'm bringing into this space to the table? Does it really hold value and merit, right? We start to question ourselves. And I would tell you, we have to really remove that doubt and really begin to trust ourselves and trust the fact that we belong here. I always tell people, take a seat at the table. Again, the people that I mentor, the young ladies that I mentor, take a seat at the table. You belong there. You're there for a reason. Trust yourself. Trust the fact that you bring incredible insight and value and expertise. That is why you were invited, right? And so I do think it's hard because we have doubt, but we've got to continue to work against that.
Tiffany, you're so inspiring. And as we wrap things up here, let's face it, people are struggling. People are trying to bring joy into their life. And, at a time where not only is there a level of uncertainty that we've never experienced before, but really there's so much demanded of us than ever before. So as we close the show, let me throw this at you. See, I believe that success comes most to those who are surrounded by people who want their success to continue. How would you guide someone that is in search of others that want their success to continue?
Wow. I will tell you this, I'll share pretty candidly and quickly. Some years ago, when I first became a leader, I read a book, and the book was about what is the legacy that you want to leave. And I will tell you, I take those principles into every leadership role that I have. And the one thing that it talked about that stood out to me most was to be me. Right? Don't try to be anyone else, but be me. And stay true to my morals and my values and all those things that are important to the essence of who I am. And so I've always tried to stand on that, right? To stand on my laurels and ensure that I am bringing that into the workplace, right? And staying true to that, because for me, that's the legacy I want to leave. And so I would tell anyone, be true to who you are. Be true to the essence of who you are, right? And that will help to create that legacy. And really think about it. Think about, what is the mark you want to leave, right? And what do you want to, how do you want to be an example to others that will carry forth into the future, far into the future, right?
Well, and I love how you said this, is when you're true to yourself, people will gravitate towards you. You will then build that support group that will help propel you along. And I think that's more of what not only are we longing for, is how do we support one another during these times of change and uncertainty, but how can we build a sense of belief that all this change will turn out a lot better after all the work is done. And I can't thank you enough, Tiffany, for the time that you've spent with us discussing really the foundational principles of transformation through the lens of opportunity management. Thank you so much for being on the show today, Tiff.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you, Tiff. And as we close every show, when you lead in the age of personalization, you will see things that others don't, do what others won't, and keep pushing when prudence says quit. Thank you, Tiff. Thanks for listening to Personalization Outbreak. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss a show. If you enjoyed the content, visit ageofpersonalization.com to check out our free streaming video series and learn how to get involved in the movement. I'm Glenn Yopes. I wish you a good day, and remember, without strategy, change is merely substitution, not evolution. Learn more about City of Hope at cityofhope.org.